Hi everyone, and welcome back to Chasing Past Golf Podcast, where I've got another player episode in the form of LPGA Tour player Hira Naveed. Hira, how are you?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm good. Not, as I was saying off air, not long finished work, but we're ready to go. And I believe you're in Washington DC. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Currently in DC.
How are things in Washington DC? How's the preparation going for this long stretch of events that are coming up on the LPGA?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. Off season was great. I had a couple months to kind of just enjoy being in the city and enjoying my own space. I moved into a new apartment, so that's been great. So yeah, off season's been great. Did prep. The weather hasn't been very conducive to having a good place to practice out here, but now the weather's starting to pick up a little bit, and it's starting to get a little bit nicer as we go into spring. So yeah, just getting out there and making sure I get my reps in before we start this big stretch.
So obviously you've had three tournament starts already this season. So when basically there's a break and then
Yeah.
you've got to prepare for a long stretch of events, is there anything that like ideally you're trying to work on or maybe improve?
Yeah, for me, our off-season goals for me and my team were to try and get in the gym and get a bit stronger. I think last year we kind of noticed that the transition from Epson to LPGA can be a little bit more tougher on your body, especially with the travel and that extra round that we play, because Epson is 3 rounds, whereas LPGA is 4. So I know it doesn't sound like much, but accumulative, like over the whole course of the year, it can be pretty stressful on the body. And I kind of realized kind of midway through last season that my body was just not in the right place to compete at the highest level. And so I had to start taking things seriously in the gym. So that's kind of just been what we've been working on in off season, and kind of going through some swing changes with my coach, Chris Mayson, and who I believe you also had on your podcast, which is pretty cool. So I've been working with him for a little bit now, and so we've just been going through some things in off season in terms of where we want the swing to be, and kind of getting in the gym and trying to work on it so it can translate over into practice.
So how would you assess your first few events of the season at the Founders Cup? A good result in Saudi, and then it was the Blue Bay China. How would you assess your first few events of the season?
Definitely happy with the finish in Saudi. Going into that week, it was kind of a tournament that wasn't really on the schedule for me. That I kind of ended up getting into last minute because I wasn't into Thailand and Singapore. And so I thought, you know what, let me give it a crack. It was kind of like my first LET event, so that was cool. And it was a great week, great setup. The purse was really good. Obviously, for women's golf to have a $4.5 million prize purse was pretty good. Definitely helped that week to finish in the top 10 and have a good finish financially. But that was a good tournament to get started off on the year, and kind of see the swing changes kind of come into fruition, which was really great and very positive. And I think the other two events there were a lot of positives there. Obviously, I didn't have the weekend that I wanted to have in both events. And I think that also, as I said, has a lot to do with just getting a little bit stronger overall, and hitting it hard in the gym.
Yeah, I was going to say with the Saudi, great finish, but it's a shame Gino was there, to be honest. Like, she just cleaned up eventually, but yeah.
Yeah. I think anytime Gino shows up, you've got to have your A game. So
Yeah. To be fair, like, it seems like with Gino, like, she could even rock up with a B and C game at times, and it looks ridiculous, like, how good she is. Like, she's unbelievable, isn't she, Gino?
yeah, her swing is unbelievable for sure. Very, very raw talent there. And I think a lot of people forget that she's actually a great putter as well. I think her putting stats are unbelievable. And I think that's where it's at, right? Drive for show, putt for dough. And so short game is so important. And And I guess that's what we all strive to become the best at this level.
So obviously you're in DC just now. It's the fourth championship next week in Arizona, which was your career best last year, which we'll go into. But how are you looking forward to going back to Arizona? Is that place that you enjoy?
Oh, I love Arizona. Yeah, Arizona golf has always been very nice to me. I've always enjoyed playing there, even not just on the LPGA, but Epson Tour. So we have tournaments there every year, and I always enjoy desert golf. It kind of reminds me of home a little bit. And I think that's why I feel very comfortable out there on those golf courses. I love hot weather because the ball goes a little bit further, so it's a little ego boost. But no, I love playing in Arizona, and I'm actually really excited for next week.
And so in terms of like the travel days, etc., like when will you arrive in Arizona?
So I leave on Sunday, so I'll get there pretty much on Sunday, and then just kind of prep on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and get geared up, get acclimatized, and play on Thursday.
And even though it was at Seville Golf Club last year, I believe it's at a new course again this year. Are you familiar at all with this?
I am not familiar at all. No, it is definitely going to be a challenge because it's a different golf course, but looking forward to it nonetheless. I mean, as I said, I really enjoy playing in Arizona, and regardless of the result, I love going out there. I have, family come up from California to watch, and that place is obviously very special to me. So yeah, I'm very excited and very much looking forward to it.
And so obviously with the memories of last year of a career high of second in the LPGA, like obviously this was in the midst of Nelly Korda, like in robot mode. So like obviously to challenge Nelly like all the way on the Sunday as well. Like I take it that was a memorable experience for you.
Yeah, it was very memorable. It's funny because I remember going into Friday after the round. I was pretty much on the cut line, and I kind of saw the cut line continually move throughout the day. I was at 5 under, and it kept moving from 5 to 6. And there was a point where it moved to 6, and I was like, oh no, I've missed the cut by one shot again, because the week prior to that in LA, I had missed the cut by a shot. And so I felt like the golf gods were not with me that week as well. And then, I don't know, something happened and it moved back down to 5 under, and I made it to the weekend. And I think that kind of took a lot of pressure off of me just because it was my second tournament. And obviously at that point, you're trying to play your best and make cuts. And so, yeah, it just took a lot of pressure off of me and just kind of played a lot of free golf. And I woke up the next morning. I had a really early tee time. I think I was the first one off, and just got going and started holing a lot of putts and hitting good shots. And I think I shot 7 under that day, and put myself right back into the tournament, which was good. And Sunday was great as well. I remember coming down the stretch. I wasn't really looking at leaderboards at all throughout the whole day. I was just kind of focused on just taking it one shot, one hole at a time. And I knew I was kind of up there when I holed that putt on 17, because my family started cheering really, really loudly, and the crowd kind of erupted a little bit. And I think that was to tie Nelly going into 18. And at the time, I obviously did not know that. But I knew that once they reacted that way, I knew that I was either leading or I was somewhere around the lead. And so going down 18 was a little nerve-wracking, but it was unfortunate I wasn't able to finish with a birdie there, but I think Nelly would have still gotten me by a shot nonetheless. So it was a really cool experience to go head-to-head with a player of her caliber, and it obviously gives me a lot of confidence that I do have what it takes to compete with all these girls, and just got to trust and believe in myself and hopefully have it happen at some point.
Yeah, because I remember correctly, although there was some wins last year, but it was also a very scoreable golf course, because I believe it was Hannah Green in the second round. It was the 11 under 61, I believe.
Yeah, she went lights out.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, she went full Hannah Green robot mode there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, she's cool. I grew up with her, so I know Hannah pretty well. But yeah, that weekend I got pretty lucky on the weekend because I was in the morning on Saturday, and Sunday the weather was not great at all. I mean, it was raining and miserable. It was cold and windy. So to come in and shoot 6 under that day and finish second was pretty cool.
Rainy, cold, miserable. Are we talking about Scotland here?
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't sound like Arizona weather, huh?
Sounds more like Scotland or Britain, to be honest. But
Yeah, well, we played at St Andrews last year, and we got real Scottish experience there, which was not the best, but at least we were at St Andrews. So
yeah, I was actually there on the Friday and Saturday as a spectator, and honestly, like, I was getting battered by the winds, but I still got sunburned for some reason.
you got sunburnt? No way. Okay, so you're proper Scottish then.
Yeah, that only happens to Scottish people. Literally, like maybe an hour of sun, like with the 40 mile per hour winds, got burnt. Yeah,
Wow, that's unbelievable. All right, well, you got your tan in the summer.
I wouldn't say tan. I'd say more lobster. It's very red, very hot.
Oh, I gotcha. That's funny.
I was like, I look like what's the character I'm trying to say? I look like Mr. Krabs, Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob. That's what I look like.
Oh, I got you. That's funny.
Terrible. But no, like obviously, yeah. So, well, just while you mentioned that there, St Andrews, what was that experience like? Obviously, the home of golf.
Yeah.
If you wanted to play a major, probably that'd be top of the list.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, I remember telling people that if you had told 10-year-old Hira that she would be playing her first British Open at St Andrews, she wouldn't have believed you. And yeah, I remember getting there that week and I was just in awe of the place. I mean, the atmosphere is just so different. Obviously, so much history to that place. And I actually remember walking down the first hole during a practice round, and I was just a little teary-eyed because I just couldn't believe that I was there and playing my first British Open there, and it was just a really, really special week. Obviously, the golf was not great, but just being able to be there and play golf at St Andrews was probably one of the top experiences golf-wise in my life for sure.
So talking of that first hole, like it looks like the widest, easiest fairway in the history of mankind. But I imagine on a windy day, like there is a possibility that maybe it could go in the burn. Do you ever think about that? Like, oh no, I'm not going to head in the burn.
You know what's funny is it's a super wide fairway, but that's only, I mean, you've got to be you've got to see it as wide as it is. So if you don't see it as wide as it is, then you're probably not going to do very well. So you just kind of got to like pick a line and trust where it's going to go. And you're going to obviously catch a piece of fairway. You're going to have to hit it off the face of the earth to miss that fairway. But no, it's such a cool setup with 1 and 18, both kind of facing each other and crossing down. And just walking over the bridge was also a super special little thing that you got to experience the whole week. So yeah, overall 10 on 10.
Did you have a favourite hole at St Andrews when you were there? Like, if you remember correctly?
Oh, that's a tough one. 17. The
road hole, yeah.
The road hole. A very interesting tee shot for sure. Definitely under pressure makes it that much tougher. But even just the approach shot, like you've got to be so precise. You know, you can't hit it into the front left part. You can't go over the green, over the back. It's super, super difficult up and down. So that's definitely a standout hole for me from that week.
If I remember correctly for the top of my head, because I was standing there at the exact same spot, I believe Lynn Grant's ball was right beside the wall, literally no space at all beside the wall. Like, yeah, basically, basically you had to hit against the wall just to get anywhere. Like, yeah, that's the beauty of that hole, though.
Did she actually hit it all?
Yeah. Well, she had to kind of move it a little bit, but yeah, I mean, You just got to kind of take your medicine.
Oh, that's crazy. I gotta ask her that story next time I see her.
To be honest, if I do remember it, I'm sure it was Grant because she was wearing like earmuffs and she was wearing Adidas stuff, and yeah, I'm sure it was Grant. But,
Yeah, if it's Adidas gear, it's definitely her.
yeah, she was wearing earmuffs that week. So yeah, you can mention that too. Why are you wearing earmuffs?
Gotcha. Yeah, it was unbelievably cold, so makes sense.
Yeah. No, true. No, but I enjoyed that, and obviously, I presume you enjoyed it as well, the whole experience. What was the Dunvegan like? Did you go to the Dunvegan?
I did go to the Dunvegan. I actually went with my caddy and his wife, and we had a couple drinks. It was absolutely packed in there. Probably Sunday was not the right day to go there, but right after the tournament. But yeah, I think just the town of St. Andrews is really beautiful, and I got to walk around and eat at a couple spots. And I'll give it to you guys, Scottish Nando's is the real deal. You know, I stand by Australia having the best Nando's, but Scottish Nando's is pretty spot on.
Well. Speaking of a Nando's order, what did you get? Yeah, you mentioned it now. You have to go.
Oh, it's always the chicken and chips.
Yeah, like was it like a mild one or
Mild? Yeah, no, I'm a mild girl. I can't do hot. I'll do hot if I'm feeling a little dangerous, but it's usually mild.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So talking about your 2024 season, your rookie year, obviously you had that high of the second at the Ford Championship. You had a few other top 20s as well. How would you assess your season? Like obviously, like speaking of the LPGA Tour, obviously the standard is so good. Like, did you feel any pressure at all to try and emulate that second place?
Yeah, I think there's always pressure. I think starting off the season with the second finish was as great as it was. Obviously, there's always pressure, and you kind of have set high expectations for yourself. For me, the goal for the year was really to just enjoy and take it all in. I think for me, I've been working super hard since I was 10, 11 years old to get onto the LPGA, and that's always been the dream. So for me, it was really about taking it all in, taking it one tournament at a time, and really just focusing on enjoying it, and enjoying the process, because it's so easy to get caught up in outcome oriented goals and how you're finishing and how much money you're making every week, and that you forget to enjoy the whole process of it. So I mean, last year was a mixed bag. There were some really good things, really good finishes, and some not so good finishes. And again, that just goes with trying to find your feet in the first year, and I mean, it was disappointing to finish outside of the top 60. I finished 72nd on the CME points list, so that was definitely a goal that was attainable, and that I really wanted to attain towards the end of the season, and especially going to Asia, having the chance to play all the Asia tournaments, which was also such a cool experience in itself. It was definitely a month that I really, really enjoyed out in Asia. But so yeah, that was definitely a disappointing finish to the season. But I think overall, I would say it was a good season, a lot of good stuff, and definitely a lot of positives.
Have you got like a certain tournament or certain round or certain memory from last year that kind of sticks out with the majors? So like in the regular season event, like maybe out with the Ford, like was there any like country round?
Yeah, all the majors were golf wise not great, super difficult, but going to France and playing in the Evian Championship was an awesome experience. That little town itself is in such a beautiful part of France, and I think anybody that you ask on tour, whether it's a player, caddy, staff members, they all love Evian and how the tournaments run, and everybody's kind of in the same place. So, you're kind of having dinner with everybody throughout the town, and seeing everybody. You're all in the same place, same hotel. So that was a really cool week. And my sister actually flew flew over from Switzerland to spend the week with me, which was really special. So Evian was definitely a very enjoyable week, and actually Japan towards the end of the year, the Asia Swing, that was a really cool tournament. The Toto Classic. I had a pretty decent week that week. Had a top 20 finish, which could have been better. But yeah, Japanese people are so cool. I love the country. The food was incredible. Hospitality was great. And it kind of felt like a major. I mean, the crowds were out in full force, and that final day there were loads of people that came out to watch, especially because I was in a group with one of the Japanese favorites, Yuna. And that was a really, really cool experience to kind of put myself in a position to contend that week. And so that was a really cool week.
Yeah, I mean, like, it seems like everybody I get on always goes on about how they love Evian or the place, the town. Obviously, you got the Lake Geneva in the background.
Yeah.
Like, you probably got better places in the world that you can look out upon if the golf isn't going too well. I mean, you've got Lake Geneva in the background. You got
exactly. Yeah, you got Switzerland on the other end of the lake. I mean, it's definitely one of the best views that we get all year for sure.
And like obviously we all know it's a hilly walk as well. So like,
yeah, it's definitely a hilly walk. It's not the best walk, but as I said, it's worth it for the views and the type of tournament that it is. I mean, you get to play in a major, so.
I've heard the Maybank in Malaysia is a very, very tough walk because of the humidity as well.
Yeah. Maybank was also actually a very special week because my parents flew up from Australia to watch that week, and I got to kind of spoil them for the week, which was fun. But it was a hot week, very hot and humid, which made that walk even tougher every day. But the thing is, for me, I enjoy playing in the heat, so I didn't mind it that much. But that's definitely one of the tournaments where, yeah, you will hear a lot of people complain about how freaking hot it is.
Yeah, definitely. So just taking it back to the start for you. So you were actually born in New Zealand, but you spent majority of your childhood in Perth, Australia. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
So what was that like, kind of growing up in Perth? Like, obviously, beautiful place, like Australia, unbelievable country.
Yeah.
To get that was a great place to grow up.
Yeah, I definitely look back at my childhood and have very fond memories of Perth. I'm very grateful that that my parents were able to move and immigrate from Pakistan and kind of give us a life in a Western country and give us the opportunities that they never really had, and that their family members also, quite frankly, didn't have. And being born in New Zealand and then raised pretty much all my life in Australia, I definitely don't take that for granted. And I think that's kind of the only way I would have ever been exposed to golf and been where I am today. So definitely very, very grateful to have grown up in a city like Perth, and definitely have very, very fond memories. And I always enjoy going back. I was there a couple weeks ago, in between some of the tournaments before I went to China. And yeah, it's just always good to be home because, home is home, and it's just nice to catch up with family and friends.
You were saying, like, when we first started that you moved to Washington, D.C. Obviously, you stay in the States now, but like, what's maybe three things when you go home that you miss? So maybe Tim Tams.
That's funny. So I miss a cheeky Nando's. Love a cheeky Nando's. That's number one. Every time I'm about to go back to Perth, I always let my family know that the first stop's going to be Nando's. Yeah, I love a good Nando's. And then honestly, just like Aussie food, like fish and chips. That's a big one. Feel like you don't get good fish and chips anywhere around the world except for Australia. Just has such good fish and chips.
Scott.
I know. Okay, I'll give it to Scotland. Scotland's not too bad. And then just, things here and there like meat pies and sausage rolls. And yeah, as you said, like Tim Tams, just things that are like Australian, things that I miss. But I make sure to to get everything in whenever I'm back. So yeah.
Dare I say Vegemite?
Vegemite. I know that's very controversial. I don't mind Vegemite. I don't think it's that bad. And, it's probably because I grew up on it. But, if you have it in the right quantity, right amounts, with some butter on the other toast, and it's not bad. It's not bad. It's an acquired taste. It's an acquired taste. I get it.
Vegemite slash kind of Marmite in Britain. It's it's like very strong, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very strong. As I said, it's an acquired taste, so to each his own.
No, that's fair. Yeah, like obviously I had to disagree there with the fish and chips. Obviously Scottish, come on. Like
Yeah.
Scottish fish and chips doesn't get much better, really, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess like where you're from, everything's great in that place, but
Yeah, no, for sure. So was it 2015 you went to Pepperdine University in Los Angeles?
2016, the spring of 2016, yeah. Yeah, so I was a spring admit. Usually people start in the fall, but pretty much right out of high school, I decided that I wanted to go straight away to college and play college golf in America, and it was a tough decision to kind of pick up and move, all like across the world all by myself at the age of 17. But I think it was necessary at that time, and I'm very happy that I made that decision. But yeah, 2016 is when I started and went to Pepperdine for 3.5 years, and then kind of lived in LA for a little bit after that once I turned pro, and played some mini tour stuff out in California and Arizona and Texas. And then met somebody in New York and moved there in 2021-ish, and lived there for about 2.5 years, and then kind of was done with that. And so the next move was DC. So here we are.
So you mentioned there at 17 years old, obviously going to LA. I mean,
Yeah.
it must feel, at first, it must feel exciting to go to LA.
Yeah.
But like, what was the actual LA experience like over them 3.5 years?
It was exciting, but it was also very overwhelming. As I said, it was a big culture shock to move from a small town like Perth to a big city like LA. It can be very overwhelming with the amount of people that are there, with the type of culture that is there. I moved all by myself. I didn't really know anybody in LA, and so it was difficult. It was a difficult transition. I had a lot of firsts. Like, I had to do my own laundry and like just basic things like cook my own food and take care of myself and get my own car and drive around. So all of that was really difficult at first, because growing up, I grew up in a pretty protective family where I didn't really have to worry about much, and I just kind of had to focus on school and golf. And then, when you get thrown out into the big bad world, you kind of gotta just survive. So for me, those first couple years were just surviving. And that's why I kind of struggled a little bit, and my golf struggled a bit as well. My freshman and sophomore years were not that great. And, I had a couple of doubts in there at a point too, where I felt like I should step away and maybe just focus solely on golf and not pursue college. And my coach, who I absolutely love, she's like a mom to me. She, kind of talked me out of it and said that, I need to grow and mature and give myself a chance to compete in college and kind of like hone in on my game a little bit more. And so I did that. I listened to her, and I'm glad I did, because then I had a really good last 2 years at Pepperdine. So very, very grateful for her as well.
So you mentioned there that you had to, fend for yourself, like when you first moved over. What was the first meal that you cooked by yourself?
That's so funny. It was probably just pasta. It was probably just
easy.
Just from the supermarket, just grab some pasta, grab some sauce, throw it together, throw some cheese in there, and that's it. Voila.
Master Chef has arrived.
Oh, the typical, college meal, which is 2-minute noodles.
Yeah. I was just saying there, MasterChef has arrived now. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, MasterChef has still not arrived. I think I'm still kind of trying to focus on my cooking skills a bit and trying to hone in on those and trying to learn how to cook. But I enjoy doing that. So
so in your time at Pepperdine, so you were 4-time All Western Coast Conference first team pick. You were a Western Conference Player of the Year. Obviously, you represented the international side at the 2019 Palmer Cup as well. And I'm led to believe you also finished fifth on Pepperdine's career scoring list with 73.59. So we'll talk about the Palmer Cup then. Obviously, what was that experience like? What was that week like in general for the
yeah.
international side? I take it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, for me it was such a great ending to my amateur career. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better ending. That was my final tournament as an amateur, and it was just such an incredible week getting to spend it with some of the best players in the country and just that team environment. I love the Ryder Cup format, so that was super super cool. We got spoilt that week, and we had some great coaches. A great team that got along with each other, and yeah, we kicked the US's ass, so that was fun. But yeah, so the internationals, yeah, we had a great week, and yeah, as I said, I love that format. I love match play. I feel like I always thrive when I play in match play. And yeah, I individually had a great week that week. I didn't lose any matches and had like one tie and the other were all wins. So that was really fun. But yeah, definitely a really, really cool way to finish my amateur career.
There was me secretly going, yes,
Yeah.
go on, pick that off.
Yeah, no, our international team was filled with a lot of Europeans, so that was fun.
So when you go back on tour, like when you see like Gabby Ruffles and stuff, like do you ever reminisce about them times?
Yeah, it's funny because we chat about it occasionally when I run into some of the girls, and they all agree that it was such a cool week, and it's funny because some of them still have the Palmer Cup towels that they carry and use, and the memorabilia from the tournament. But yeah, every time I talk to them about it, for them also it was just such a cool experience, and playing Mr. Palmer's tournament. It was unfortunate that he had passed the year that I played. He had passed just before that, but so we didn't have the pleasure of meeting him. But just to be a part of that tournament and a part of his legacy was really really cool and really special.
Beforehand, off air, I was kind of getting into like, so going forward in the women's game, could we perhaps maybe see a USA against international teams, say like a women's President's Cup? Because like honestly, I think could you imagine like Nelly Korda against Lydia Ko and Lilia Vu versus Gino Titicoon and like ties like that? Like that'd be awesome. Like Jin Young Ko against whoever, and yeah,
No, that would be
like how awesome would that be?
so awesome. So awesome. I feel like it's much needed. I personally believe that it should happen, and I've spoken to a lot of players and caddies and people that also would love to see that come to fruition. Hopefully it will at some point. I think that's great TV material, and it would be super super entertaining to see those players go head to head. And I mean, I would love to be a part of it if I can. Keep it up through my performance, and that would be pretty sick, to be honest.
Could you imagine the qualifying criteria to try and get in that team though for the international break?
Yeah, I'm sure it would be pretty difficult. It'll be a task.
I'm just thinking of names from the top of my head, honestly. Like Lydia Ko, Gino Titicoon, Ayaka Furue, Jin Young Ko,
Yeah.
Hannah Green, Minji Lee, basically the women's version of like the President's Cup. Because I believe the international team would put up a very, very good fight.
Yeah, That's exactly 100%. I agree with that. And I think that's what our game needs. I think the women's side needs that because, yeah, I agree that international side would be very, very, very hard to beat because there's just so much talent there. And as you've seen in the past couple of years, the international players have been doing pretty well out there on the LPGA. So racking in a lot of wins and a lot of good performances. So that would be something that I think should happen at some point.
Yeah, I think I've come to a theory. So I think the reason they don't want to go ahead of it because the basically Americans are scared shitless of what the international will do to them.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that because I know a lot of Americans and now I live in this country. So, I can't hate on Americans, but, you said it, not me.
Nah, all joking aside, like as I say, that'd be a cool concept. And let's hope going forward that maybe even the President's Cup, because the international team keep getting beat every single year, maybe they need to, revamp the format. Maybe some of the best international women's players play with the best international men's or something like that.
Yeah, I think a mixed event would be really cool. And I think a lot more people would be up for watching that in terms of from a fan's point of view. So that could also be an option. I think that would probably be the first option. And then the second option would be just having a separate President's Cup for the women altogether. But yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, because for the international ladies on tour just now, I'd probably say the International Crown's probably the only type of kind of team experience that they get.
Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much the only tournament where international players get to play a type of format like that. But yeah, as I said, or as you said, it would be cool to see international versus US, especially on the women's side, come to fruition. But yeah.
So obviously, after the Palmer Cup in 2019, I believe you turned pro not long after. What was that? Just an easy transition? Like obviously, you always knew that you wanted to be a professional.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't easy. I think I started off playing on the mini tours, and that in itself is an even harder grind than even Epson. I mean, the mini tours is basically you're funding the tour, and it's just an avenue for you to hone in on your game and actually just compete competitively. And I won my on my debut, which was a big confidence boost. So I won one of the Cactus Tour events in LA on the mini tours, and so that was a really cool experience. And I kind of had a really good year in 2019, and Q school was not that great. Had a little bit of a mishap there, which kind of ruined things for me a bit, or ruined my prospects for the LPGA that year. But again, it's a learning experience, and I guess when I look back, I'm glad that it kind of happened that way, because it kind of made me a lot more mentally stronger and emotionally stronger to handle adversity like that. And played Epson after that for a couple years, and yeah, I feel like college really does set you up for that transition to turn pro, because a lot of these girls that you play with in college are girls that you transition with, into the developmental tour and then to the LPGA. So that's why I think playing college golf is really important, because it's super, super competitive.
So in that kind of 2020, obviously COVID year.
Yeah.
So obviously, were you getting starts on the Cactus Tour in between that time as well?
No, so 2020 was really difficult. Most of the year I was home. I had status on the Epson Tour, but tournaments kept getting cancelled. Every couple of weeks we would get a message from the tour saying that this tournament has been cancelled and this tournament has been cancelled. So we did not play competitively in 2020 up until I think it was like October, pretty much like the end of the year. I think I only played like 4 or 5 tournaments in 2020. So 2020 was really a very difficult year because I was just at home, wasn't really doing anything. Australia had really tight restrictions on how we could move about, and it was kind of just spent mostly just locked up in the house for a good part of 9 months, which was not great for my mental health. And for me, I love competing, and not being able to play competitive golf for 9 months was really difficult. But it's something that a lot of people went through, and I guess I mean the whole world went through. So it's not something that you have any control over, and so you just kind of got to accept it and move ahead.
So when the Epson Tour season eventually started back up, was it 2021, I think?
Yeah.
So when you got your first proper taste of the Epson Tour, how did you kind of find that? How did you find that transition onto the Epson?
2021 was actually a really difficult year for me. I basically only made like 2 cuts all year, and golf was starting to look really, really like I was going through a really, really dark period in my personal life, and that was kind of pouring into my golf, and I wasn't enjoying golf anymore. I pretty much had decided at the end of 2021 that I was done with golf and that I was going to start looking for other avenues in terms of job prospects and maybe using my degree to try and do something different. And I remember I didn't pick up a golf club for like 3 months towards the end of 2021, and I don't know. I was just not in a good place, and I was kind of burnt out from the past couple of years before that. And luckily, I got convinced out of it and was told to just give it one more year and give it a chance and see how things go. And I think in 2022, I didn't put a lot of pressure on myself, and actually got back into trying to enjoy the game and love the game like I did as a kid, and trying to find my passion for it again. And so 2022 was a game changer for me because I was really able to like shift my perspective and focus on my mental health. And 2022 was a good year. I finished, I think it was in the top 45 on the money list, and so I kind of like found my feet again, and was like, all right, I'm gonna keep going and keep grinding. And again, didn't do super great at Q school that year. I think I missed out by one shot on Q series, and as heartbreaking as that was, having gone through that adversity, a year prior and sticking through it, I was in a good place, and I said, I'm going to keep going and keep trying to compete on Epson and try and work my way up. And then 2023 was the year, and had a great year on Epson, finished in the top 30 on the money list, and then went straight to Q series and finished 15th and got my full status on the LPGA.
Just quickly going back to 2022 there, so like you were saying that effectively you were at the bottom of the barrel, like in terms of like your love for the game and like your golf game in general. Obviously you kind of got that spark back in 2022. Like you got a career best on the Epson of T4th at the Twin Bridges. Was that a turning point?
Yeah, definitely. I think, those couple of finishes on Epson really helped me like regain my confidence back and feel like, okay, like I can compete. And again, majority of that year was really for me to find my love for the game again and just feel that passion for it again, and actually want to compete and actually want to go and practice and grind and go through the motions and go through the ups and downs of it. And having those couple of top 10, top 5 finishes on the Epson Tour really, really gave me a lot of confidence, for sure.
When you finished tie 15 to finally get your card, was it more relief more than anything?
Yeah, I would say so. It was definitely relief, but it was also a lot of emotions in terms of finally realizing my dream that I was going to be playing on the LPGA full time, and just a lot of like hard work, like all the blood, sweat, and tears that go into trying to become a professional golfer that a lot of people don't see the behind the scenes. And I remember walking down the 18th hole, my final day, where I realized that I was going to make it, and my caddy looked at me and said, "Hey, just enjoy this walk up to the 18th green, you've done it. And I remember making that final putt and just absolutely bawling my eyes out. I kind of hugged my caddy and started crying because it's been a long journey. I mean, I've been playing golf for more than half of my life, and trying to the only goal that I've had my whole life is to play on the LPGA. And so when you finally realize that and achieve it, it's just such a surreal feeling. And I remember walking off that green after scoring and just calling my family and just celebrating that moment with them. It was 4 a.m. actually at that time that I finished my round in Australia, and they were all watching and following, and my sister was crying, and it was a whole thing. But just so happy to be able to share a moment like that with my family, because they've obviously seen, the amount of time and that I've put into the sport, and that was just probably one of the most special days of my life that I can still look back at and really cherish.
How long did the celebrations actually truly last?
The celebrations lasted a good couple weeks. I basically went back home right after Q Series and was able to celebrate with my family, but you kind of feel the euphoria of it, and then you kind of have to be like, all right, we're right back into preparing for next season. And pretty much just 2 months after Q Series in February for me. So it's kind of like regrouping and saying, okay, hey, now we've got to get back into the grind and prep for the 2024 season.
So when did the partnership with Chris first occur? Like, obviously Chris Mayson, been on the pod before, great guy. But obviously he's one of the best golf coaches in America, that's for sure.
Yeah.
How did that kind of come about?
It was just kind of random. It was in like 2022 or 3 when I met him, and I was kind of working with someone before and feeling like my game wasn't progressing, and so I kind of actually did some Instagram research and actually really liked his stuff on Instagram and his style of teaching and his philosophies. So I kind of reached out to him and got a lesson scheduled, and from there we've kind of been working since then.
I mean, if you look at the work he's been doing, like with Alison Lee, with Sarah Smells, he seems to be improving them into more confident players. So obviously, you got a good one there. Was Chris there as well, to celebrate with yourself, like when that happened, when you finally got your LPGA Tour card?
Yeah, he wasn't there in person, but yeah, I remember calling him and we had a heart to heart, and it was really, really cool. And I remember actually calling a bunch of people, and I had a bunch of people call me after getting off the phone with my family. So yeah, I've just had so many people that have helped me along my journey within the past couple of years, and they were all super, super stoked for me. And it was really cool to just share that moment with them.
So when you rock up to the first tournament in 2024 on the LPGA Tour as a full-time LPGA Tour member, what's the sense of feeling like? Are you shitting yourself, or are you literally?
Not necessarily shitting myself, because at the end of the day, I do it for a living. So for me, it's like, all right, you're back to work. But it was definitely surreal to be there and be amongst the players that you kind of look up to. And I remember when right before the first round, I was walking up to the first tee and I looked at my caddy and I went, oh my God, I'm shitting myself. I don't think I'm supposed to be here. I'm so nervous. And I'm like, I don't feel like I deserve to be here. Like, what am I doing? And he kind of grabbed me by the shoulders and shook me out of it and said, hey, you've worked super, super hard to get here. Just go and enjoy it. Just enjoy the shit out of it. Forget about, your score or the people around you, or, just go and have fun. And I think after I hit that first tee shot, striped it straight down the middle of the fairway, kind of felt a little bit at ease and was able to play. I actually played pretty well that week. Just the cut line didn't go my way, but but it was definitely a good first tournament, and I had family come out who live in LA to watch, and my agent was out there. So that was really cool to have their support and just have people cheering you on.
Since that first event in 2024, um, is anybody in that time, in that whole year period, like, have they been able to give you like little snippets of advice, or like, has anybody took you aside and like just give you some advice as such?
Yeah, I think speaking to a couple of the veteran players on tour, you know, they kind of say that definitely make sure that you focus on your life outside of golf. It's so easy to get caught up in outcome and what you're doing week to week and how your results are and the grind of like traveling on a Monday and then practicing throughout the week and then playing 4 days and then packing your suitcase, at a random hotel and then going to the next place. And the advice that I've gotten is really to just take it all in and enjoy the process, because, we're not going to be doing this forever. And, we're young and for us to be able to say that we get to play professional golf for a living is really truly a blessing that a lot of people don't get to experience. And I would much rather be doing what I'm doing and complain about the travel and the grind of the travel than work a 9 to 5 job at a desk all day. So that's definitely been most of the advice that I've gotten.
Is any of the current players, in terms of like the current Aussies, so maybe like Hannah, Minjee,
Yeah.
players like that, have they been able to give you some like any like words of encouragement and such?
Yeah, I haven't really been super in touch with them because, I moved out of Perth pretty young and they kind of are a little older to me, so they were on their own paths. But it's been nice to see them every week and just see how well they've done for themselves, and it just gives you that extra bit of fuel to follow in their footsteps and just learn from them and learn from how they go about their routines from week to week and the things that they kind of work on, and the way they carry themselves is very admirable. So definitely a lot of fuel to the fire to kind of follow in their footsteps and try and compete with them.
So going forward this season, what would you say is the most realistic target that you'll be setting yourself? Obviously, to finish in the top 60, going into the
Yeah.
final of it would be the icing on the cake. What would you say is the kind of realistic kind of
Yeah.
target? I take you're still targeting top 60, of course.
Yeah, I think top 60 CME is definitely the goal for this year. I think, as I said, finishing 72nd, which is just right outside of it, was really disappointing last year. And, I was really hoping to creep into that top 60 and get a start at the Tour Championship. So that's definitely the goal for this year. And then obviously just improving on stats in terms of, greens and reg, fairways hit, short game percentages, that kind of thing. Um, that's definitely a goal. But I think, as I said in the beginning of our conversation, just like getting stronger and just hitting the gym super hard. I think that's a goal for me and my team this year, is to see that work in the gym show out on the golf course in terms of stamina and being able to hold certain positions in the golf swing on a week to week basis. So that's probably the top couple of goals. And wouldn't be too shabby to get a win in there if if that comes to it. But those are definitely some realistic goals for sure.
And I take it maybe a couple playing a couple more of the majors as well. What be
Yeah.
there as well?
Yeah, I think it was really good to get a start in all the majors last year, because it gives you a lot of good insight and experience into how the prep should be for a major. And I think I've definitely learned a lot from it. And it'd be nice to go into it with a more experienced mindset and hopefully do a little bit better in each tournament compared to last year.
Yeah, obviously, I know you made. I know you competed in like all the majors last year, but obviously by your own admission, like not making the weekend, etc. Like, well, obviously, it all comes with experience, of course. But like, hopefully, if you were to make, the weekend of a major, there you go. That's improvements. That's it.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely would be great. I think if going into a tournament with the mindset of just making the cut is probably not where I want to be at, but if that happens, that's great. But definitely trying to contend at every tournament that I compete in, whether realistic or not, is a goal that I set for myself, and I think it is achievable, and to me at least, it's achievable and realistic. So yeah, it'll be fun to see if I can, compete in majors this year.
So in these last few minutes, we're just kind of just a general chat now. So in terms of off of the golf course, what sort of things do you kind of like to get up to, like just to kind of, get some bad time?
Yeah, well, I'm a city girl, and that's why I kind of built my base in DC. I know a lot of players live in like Florida and Texas, and I just don't see myself ever living in cities like that. For me, I'm a big city girl. I like to be able to walk to my local coffee shop and go to restaurants and bars and hang out with friends and be able to meet people from all parts of the world. And I think DC is very conducive to that, and it's very fun to do that. I don't have any particular hobbies per se, but I do enjoy going out with friends and hanging out and trying. I'm a big foodie, so I love trying different restaurants. In fact, I'm probably going to go somewhere out tonight and try a new restaurant. So whenever I come back to DC, it's really just kind of decompressing and enjoying being in my own space and just relaxing and watching some Netflix and going out for walks and exploring the city a little bit. So, yeah.
If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what's it going to be?
That is a difficult one. That is such a difficult one. I grew up in a Pakistani household, so I love myself some curry. So I would say probably any type of curry and roti for the rest of my life, and I'll be pretty happy.
Not too hot though, by the sounds of it.
You know what? That's funny you say that, because when it comes to Pakistani food, I can actually take some spice, but the Nando's hot is too much for me.
That's crazy that you said that, to be honest.
Yeah. No, it's just, when you grow up on different types of spices, you just have a different palate for it. But yeah, good curry and roti will do it for me.
And so in terms of like when you're in the gym, like do you have like a set playlist or that you kind of like to try and get in? Like
I don't know if I'm like a maniac or something, but I don't really listen to music when I work out.
Really?
Yeah, whatever's on in the gym, I just kind of listen to that. If there's a playlist that I had to choose, it would probably be just like any type of rap, like hardcore rap, any type of hip hop. So,
right,
yeah.
Okay, right. You had this here and there. See if you win this year on the LPGA Tour, you have to rap a verse to a song.
Rap a verse. Oh God.
It could be any song.
I don't think you're ever gonna catch me in an LPGA tournament rapping a verse, mate. I can guarantee you that. But if I had to choose, it would probably be Drake. Anything Drake. I love Drake.
I just thought it'd be quite funny. Yeah. So now, obviously, with you going to Arizona, good memories, etc.
Yeah.
Best of luck, obviously, going back to Arizona, and then obviously for the rest of 2025. Hopefully you achieve your goals and your ambition.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that.